the Board of Managers at Riley Purgatory Bluff Creek Watershed District to order. First item on the agenda is the approval of the agenda. Do we have any changes? Do I have a motion?
I've got some changes, but I will move the agenda so we can discuss it.
Okay,
Second.
second. All right, so what changes do you have for us?
Like to pull. Yes, I have to say that. Well,
5B.
5B. Discussions, I'll move that down.
Okay,
I wanted to add something in terms of, I don't think we've talked about this yet, maybe not, or maybe we have, but inviting CAC members to go to the annual meeting up in Nishwa.
should we add that in as an item of new business?
Yeah, you can do that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Let's do that. So that would be 6D. And that would be CAC members
Attendance.
Attendance at the annual.
Yep.
Annual. Okay. Anything else? Any other changes?
So 5B goes to 6A.
Yes. Yes. And then we added 6D in. Any other changes? Sounds like none. So all those in favor of the agenda as changed, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? No one. So,
Madam President, managers, I would like to note for the record that all managers are present tonight.
oh yes, excuse me. Thank you so much. Okay, next item is matters of public interest. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to come before us and speak? We are looking at 3 minutes. If you could please state your name and your address, and know that your comments will be heard, but perhaps not addressed at this meeting, or perhaps the upcoming meeting it would be addressed. Is there anyone who would like to speak? Mr. Cook?
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. My name's Larry Cook. I live at 471 Bighorn Drive, Chanhassen, Minnesota. I have several comments I'll go through rather quickly. Again, I renew my objection to this meeting, as I believe there is no quorum of managers who have been duly appointed in accordance with applicable law, and thus no official actions may be taken at this meeting. Aside from that, I want to note that the financial report appears to show a substantial number of expenditures in excess of the amount set forth in the approved budget, and would appear to be illegal expenditures unless the board would take appropriate action. Also, with respect to the financial report, I don't see anything about St. Hubert's. I don't know if St. Hubert's has paid the amount due or not. I think that should be addressed either now or later at a later date. With respect to the regulatory report, it appears that we're missing the violations that were previously listed, which action was or was going to be taken. I don't know if those have been resolved or not, but nothing was set forth in the regulatory report. I want to state that it's good to see that Chanhassen is putting the solar panels. If you'll remember, we had that discussion, and I in particular raised the issue of putting solar panels on the new Chanhassen facility. I'm glad to see that that is being done. Excuse me. With respect to the report or presentation on regenerative, or what's it, watershed district or whatever it is, I want to commend the speaker. I think the speaker is an excellent speaker. However, I disagree with this approach. I am with Manager Stoving, Manager Nelson, Manager Crafton, and that I'm not sure this project is appropriate, or the way it's drafted or put together is appropriate for the watershed district. You know, the watershed districts are made to address water problems, and water problems should be analyzed, just like Lady Justice with blinders on, etc. We should be looking at objective data that would apply to all areas, all ethnicities, in all regions. And I would assume that all regions, if analyzed appropriately under our criteria, we would be addressing those issues. Particularly, I think it was very important that if the district goes ahead, it should be first of all addressing the cities and finding out what they see as the problems are, and then go from there with deciding whether or not there should be a plan to take appropriate action. And the last thing I said is, again, watershed districts are special powers district, and they are set up to deal with water issues. Thank you very much for your time.
Do we have anyone else who would like to speak during the matters of public interest? I do not see anyone. In closing the matters of public interest section, I would like to say that Mr. Cook has appeared during the public comment period and asserted that our meetings are, quote, illegal, and that managers Nelson and Crafton had not been lawfully appointed by the Carver and Hennepin County Commissioners. Mr. Cook's filed a lawsuit in Hennepin County District Court claiming that the counties had not followed the law in appointing managers Nelson and Crafton, and that he was entitled to a veteran's preference in the appointment process, and that he should have been reappointed to the board. The district contested these claims, as did Carver and Hennepin counties, and on January 29th, Judge Joseph Klein dismissed all of Mr. Cook's claims, finding that they had no legal basis. Mr. Cook appealed this decision, and on October 27th, the Minnesota Court of Appeals ruled against Mr. Cook and affirmed the district court's dismissal of his case. So that ends the matters of public interest section. Next, we'll be looking at the reading and approval of minutes. Do I have a motion to approve minutes?
Minutes presented.
Second.
Thank you. Any changes, additions? Yes.
Line 68, you say that I said that the district also needs to be fiscally responsible. And I was referencing the fact that we need to make sure and look at new ideas and new technologies and not spend money on something that's unproven necessarily. So to be careful what we're spending our money on.
I had
Go ahead.
one for the workshop. Carrie, it was on page 3 at the top. Oh, let's see. You're talking about sustainable model by siloing water outside of entire ecosystems. Administrator Jeffrey asked the district to take those concepts and put them into actionable item or plan. He said, for example, the district would not be able to, and I have no clue what this is, measure microsomal, whatever that is.
Microbial,
What
probably.
you said, but I think it was hard for the transcriber to, yeah.
Is
You know what
Microsoft-
that was?
too.
I believe it's a typo because
That's
it
just
should
a
be a
typo.
microbial mat
I
if you
think
talked
that's-
about
yeah.
anything.
That's line 62.
There is no microsomal.
Right. Anyway, that needs to, if you can figure out what you said,
I think.
you were saying we can't measure
Manager
microbes,
Nelson
which
is
is not
correct.
true.
I
We
had
can
that
take a
comment
sample
too.
and look at it under microscope.
I had to look it up. What is he talking about?
I know.
Any
Anyway,
other changes or revisions?
Line 148,
Okay.
150.
in the minutes?
It says manager blank moved to adopt.
Oh,
and
yeah.
manager-
Oh, yeah.
We need to call up about that.
Huh.
48 and 150. We didn't do first and second.
I am guessing that was Manager Duval who seconded it, but I do not know.
I don't.
I remember
voting.
voting
I
on
have
that one.
Yeah, I will get the notes and I don't have them in front
Make
of
the
me.
change.
Mr. Smith doesn't either. I'll get the notes and make that correction.
Kept meaning to call. I'm sorry I didn't do that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Anything else? Hearing no other changes to the minutes for the October 1st workshop and regular meeting of the Board of Managers. All those in favor of approving the minutes as changed, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. None opposed. Next, committee and member reports. Do we have someone here from the CAC? Hi,
You.
come on up.
Here, you can even sit if you'd like.
Didn't see you back there behind the.
Oh, yeah, I was behind the pole.
Oh, you got, do we need to push it or?
Nope, do
Okay.
nothing.
All right. Good evening, Madam President and council members. My name is Jeff Weiss. I'm representing the CAC here this evening. We met on October 20th. The agenda was, typical agenda where the person who attended the last month gave a report of what you all were up to last month. And then the vast majority of the meeting was talking about the results of the engagement survey. And so we spent probably 90% of the meeting talking about that, and very short discussion about other items. Liz walked us through various slides and the results, and we discussed the results. And I think the idea was that we would be providing any additional comments on things. I know Liz took a lot of notes on things. I took my own notes, but my computer battery is dead, so I'm unfortunately a little bit handcuffed on my ability to report on some of the things we discussed. But I don't remember anything that was super additional things that we were adding. It was a really interesting discussion as we were kind of commenting on which things were ranked high and which things were ranked low. It was more of a just kind of speculating about things. So anyway, very interesting discussion. Then we also talked a little bit about the plans for the Night with the Watershed that was coming up later on that week. Otherwise, that was about it. We didn't have any new items that we were bringing forward with you all. So I'll spare you the recap of the engagement survey since you have all seen that already. So what's that?
They have not. That's coming.
Oh.
It went to CAC first and we're bringing it to
Oh, I
them
see.
next month.
I did not realize. Okay. Well,
Spoiler.
I still won't spoil it for you, I guess. I don't have anything else to add. But I'll still be happy to field any questions you all may have.
Yes. Madge Brown.
I guess I didn't attend that meeting, but I still feel that there are some rumblings about the fact that they had some concerns they wanted us as a board to address, like steep slopes and vulnerable areas, identifying the vulnerable areas. And we really haven't acted on that, but I think it's still something they care about and they maybe feel like we're ignoring them. Yeah, putting too much into your mouth, but
So
that's just my sense of when I have attended.
President Pedersen, managers, actually, that might not be a bad idea. Scott, we could speak on the flood risk hazard mitigation mapping that's been done so far and brief them on what remains to be done. And then I was planning on in January or February bringing a proposal scope to complete the modeling throughout the district. So might be actually a good segue, have the CAC review it, give comment.
Good.
Bring it to the board.
Do you need somebody as a board representative at your next meeting? I don't see that on the agenda, but that's usually here.
I don't know if I haven't looked at that spreadsheet to see if anybody's signed up for that. I don't.
Do we need to sign? Yes.
What is the date?
Liz?
The 17th, November 17th is the date of the next one.
You can make the 17th? So Bonnie's volunteering to be at the
Bonnie?
17th. Okay, thank you, Bonnie. Okay. So I'm hearing no other questions and comments. Thank you so much for coming this evening,
Thank you all.
and we'll see you soon.
He's gonna stick around.
Okay, next on the agenda is the October Administrator Report.
President Pedersen, managers, well, we ended up talking about quite a bit of what I wanted to talk about during the workshop. I did get a chance to attend the Midwest Climate Resiliency Conference and, echo a lot of what was talked about in the workshop and what Manager DeVell brought up as well, that the focus was really again on, we're working in our silos with limited resources, financial staffing and everything else. And taking a more collaborative approach and finding an added benefit or overlap where goals align. Perhaps we're focusing on the water part and somebody else is focusing on the trees, but the two overlapping benefits provide both for a more efficient way. So it just seems like that's really where everybody's going to, meaning that everybody is primed to do it too, which I think will make it a lot easier to forge these partnerships moving forward. Other than that, Guy Slater will be starting on the 17th. She came to us from Eden Prairie where she was working with Lori Hack and Carly Whitner, doing their GIS. She's going to be taking over what Elena Portuguese was doing for us. I thought I could survive without Elena, but I was wrong. We'll be starting on the 17th. Andrew is settling into the new regulatory coordinator position. He's been very ambitious. I think he's going to do very well in that position. I think the report itself that you're seeing sort of kind of tells you a little bit more level of detail that Andrew is looking at. Other than that, we have a personnel committee meeting on the 13th. We'll have a draft of the handbook, as well as the Minnesota paid leave policy that Mr. Smith put forward, incorporated into that. A few items on there as well. I want to talk about the organizational chart and bring that back to the full board after that meeting. We will also have our benefits for 2026 at that meeting. North Risk Partners, we have a new representative from North Risk Partners. They'll be presenting what our new insurance costs will be for 2026.
Okay.
Fingers crossed.
Need
Dokie.
to exceed our budget.
Well, hopefully not. We did put in 18%, and that's still kind of what people are seeing. So I think we'll be okay. But
Any other questions of the administrator?
I had one. Let's see. Metropolitan Council led water planning engagement. The purpose of this is to bring all stakeholders together to discuss water supply from a more holistic perspective. Can you elaborate a little?
yeah, I can. So this was actually Erica Snigowski, Charlie Howley, and one other individual in the city that we don't represent wanted to find again those overlaps where different agencies have a role in water management. The Met Council is facilitating its discussions that's involving watershed management organizations, municipalities, and the counties, talking about water use and how we can, what our roles would be to help them and vice versa. So this was more of a kickoff meeting. There'll be a series more beyond that, but it was a really well-represented cross-section of the people in the West Metro area, all of them agreeing that we are stronger together, and that we can get more accomplished. So I came out of that really optimistic about opportunities moving forward.
So the DNR conservation plan, I think it's called, is out for comment. So Wilson sent me that. So I was working on that. But a lot of it's all about collaboration, about working with partners more. So I was really putting lots of positive feedback about that one. But so the commissioners made a commitment to improvement within the organization. And I thought that this plan really represented that, reflected that a lot. I sit close to her on the Bowser board because the guy between always never makes it. He's always out on his tractor. But so it's been an opportunity to just build a relationship with her. But so she has said that to me. She said, we're not going to always agree, Jill, but I'm making this commitment to do. And she did it at our legislative meeting. She stepped out and said that same thing. She really wants to try to do a culture of improvement within the DNR. And I'm seeing some of those changes.
So the DNR was invited to this meeting. They were unable to attend. They did say they would be at the next meeting. We've also requested that the Department of Health be present at the table because they've been one of the larger roadblocks to gray water and water use and reuse, water capture and use. And Ross Bittner, from Medina, was the third person responsible for that, which shouldn't surprise anybody that knows Ross.
I have a fairly good relationship with Steve Robertson. He represents Department of Health at Bowser.
Okay.
He said he's been interested in some of my perspectives, hasn't been negative, supportive. So, so he might, I don't know that he would be the person, but if we're trying to do something there, I'll certainly mention that to him.
Yeah.
Any other questions of the administrator? Yes.
Comment. One, I was glad to see that you talked about having an interim plan for the existing property to deal with the pool and the house that's falling down to make it safe. I think that's very important. Well, we talked about our dreams and visions for the future. And I'm like, but this is what we have today, and we're inviting people out to the site. So,
Barn itself is not necessarily, don't go in the barn.
so anyhow, I'm glad to see that that's when it's able to do so, we'll be working on doing something to keep that safe.
Yeah, I think Josh may want me to just let him loose with a skid loader.
That could be enjoyable. And I know Manager Jeffries mentioned it briefly during the workshop, but the information on the open house for North Lotus Lake Park is in here, the link. So it's an open house, anyone can go.
Thank you.
And we will, so the December workshop will present the North Lotus Lake concept to you. At that time, I hope to have the city's input so that then we can come to you and get your input and bring it back to the city.
Thank you.
I had one other thing I was gonna
Yes.
bring up. So what I put on Josh's desk, I got an invitation today to the DNR roundtable.
Okay,
It's gonna be January 9th, and last year, Josh asked me, he said, is that something I should go to? And I said, definitely. I really think that he should be there. And Nate worked under him as an intern, and now Sarah knows him.
Mhm.
So I think I'd be glad to call him to see if he can get an invitation. Otherwise, he has to be part of the pool.
yeah, that would be nice. It would be good to
I'll
have
try.
Josh have a
Okay.
seat at that. Thank you.
Okay. Have we gotten through? Yes, we have. All right. We are done with the administrator report and the staff report. We heard the bit of new people, promotions up. So we're on to the October engineers report. Does anybody have any questions of Scott? Hearing none? Well,
Pretty
since our permits are down, because it's now getting to be the end of the season. So we expect that we'll have many more questions for you in upcoming months. Okay, the October regulatory report. Any questions, comments on that? I didn't have any. Doesn't sound like we have anything there.
Sounds like Andrew's doing a great job. This is really
Yes.
comprehensive.
Yeah, so those violations that Mr. Cook brought up were addressed and they've been resolved, so.
Great. Do we have a legal report, Mr. Smith?
Nothing beyond the items later on the agenda.
Okay. And received managers reports. Now, I know we have. You want to start us off, Bonnie?
I guess so.
Okay.
So, I was appreciated being able to go to the University of Minnesota Water Resources Conference recently down in St. Paul. And obviously it's 2 full days, so we went to a lot of presentations. I do have a copy if anybody wants to know of the abstracts that talks about what was presented there. So if you have any, and hopefully at some point there's one that's electronic, but have not seen it yet. But I wanted to highlight a couple presenters and presentations I saw. One was about design storms versus real precipitation events by Andy Erickson at the University of Minnesota, St. Anthony Falls Lab. And he is obviously an expert researcher who has done, all the stormwater series, and he is a very dynamic, passionate, available resource. And when you're there, he makes you feel equally as enthusiastic and passionate about stormwater infrastructure, which who knew? But, definitely a resource. But I really like that they have in several Minnesota watersheds, the urban watersheds, gathered real data, precipitation data to compare it against the models. And so that as we're designing towards climate change, what is the pattern? We're getting fewer, perhaps short-term storms, but longer, big long-term storms like I probably wrote it all down. What used to be a 50-year rain event is now less than a 25-year event. And that one thing that the models don't really identify the benefits of infiltration and rain gardens. But yet we need stormwater system. We need everything. But it was just a really good presentation to put together all of the issues that we have. And it keeps getting back to, is there something we can do with our modeling or what we use? Within to really get at the importance of tree canopy, of infiltration, but better, like the city of Chanhassen, making gates so they can pre-empty it before these 100-year storms that are coming more often so that they don't have flooding, because that's still a very primary, we're undersized, aging infrastructure. So we've got to deal with that in addition to additional infiltration. And so it was just a really good presentation. But I gave you some highlights. The University of Minnesota talked about their wake boat study, and we can all read it, access it. And I just wanted to really that at 9 and 14 feet, a significant disturbance to the soils on the bottom. And I wanted to bring it up in part because we've just done our soil samples to see maybe what's happening down there after a season. So I kind of wanted to tie it into the work we're doing to maybe see if we can build on that as far as how it's impacting the water quality in our lakes. So.
I know Joe is working on that. I haven't checked in with him lately where he's at with it, but yeah.
We've got winter is for distilling information. We're still gathering, I think. So that's.
I think I shared with the group, the videos from the U of M study are on our website now on the lake management plan. So if you want to see it, it's pretty dramatic.
It's very dramatic. So I like that we're continuing the work. I'm hoping the state will, and I don't want to undo the work we're doing. And then the third one was soil health practices for vegetation establishment and stormwater management by Warren Toole at MnDOT. And he is a hands-on on the site, and what they are doing real time as they're putting in all these roads and all the right of way, they're doing studies on infiltration and decompaction and the vegetation and what works and what doesn't. And he had a lot of practical implementable things on how to decompact, what kind of ripper to use, what kind of soils. And so they have things that we might be able to directly put into maybe our decompaction techniques that we ask to do within a condition of our permit, like how they could decompact, not just that you decompact. There's different methods that are more effective. So he had a lot of really good Minnesota-based practical information. So I thought that was a really helpful.
Presented.
I don't have numbers.
Who is it?
Warren Toole.
It's number 3 on your,
right at the top.
I gave you that was.
Okay.
Did he touch on MnDOT was doing a ditch study a while ago too, just to see what type of treatment period was just happening in their ditches. Did he mention that?
That's not what this is just recently available information that they just came out with on work they've been doing. So this is kind of like hot off the presses. So I found it really, again, encouraging, like there's something I can grab and we can do. I like that.
What I like was the one, I just wrote down tidbits.
Okay.
And one of the tidbits I got out of that talk was that for sites that are being redeveloped, and you want to preserve the original sod, that rolling the sod and topsoil along the perimeter works better than traditional silt fence. And I thought, well, that's pretty interesting. But I don't know. I know as we get into more redevelopment, doing that might be something that we should add to our toolbox for erosion control.
So what was it they do?
They roll the existing sod and topsoil around the perimeter.
Yeah.
And they found that for erosion control, that actually works better than silt fence, as well as being able to.
Pretty stable, right?
They're
I mean,
done.
it should
Yeah.
be, okay.
So that was my tidbit.
That was there. Like I said, there was a lot of implementable actions in his
And
presentation.
you all took good notes.
The next one was decompaction and compost addition have clear urban soil health benefits by Pat Sauer, something from Iowa, and Rootwise Environmental. And I wrote it down. She was knowledgeable, charismatic, enthusiastic. I mean, and she said it's the caffeine, but man, she was a force, and she was passionate and excited about the work she'd done in Iowa. She would be a great speaker for anything.
Is that who? So
She showed up with a bag of her clay soil from Minnesota and like passed it around the room. So you,
Zach Dickhausen is reaching out to her actually to schedule her to come in for a workshop.
yeah, she was,
Fun. That's fun.
She's fun.
yeah, and she's and she's moved here and she's taking on basically her own personal yard, but very excited about urban, how to soil restoration practices in an urban environment after construction. There's certainly was work before, but and maybe they have some communities that she worked on developing cost share funds available to residents in some cities for soil quality restoration on their existing lawns. So not necessarily for just native plants, but actually going in and decompacting and adding compost and doing some work that gets at soil health as well.
And that it should
It's
be
good to
in
know we were
ours,
speaking
but
about
should
the right
have a
things,
soil
Pat.
health plan, as well as a decompaction.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so some of it was during development, working with the developers, but also they had a after the fact, they worked with residents. And this was all done in Iowa. And she was very fun to listen to.
So, Rachel Whittington and Zach Dickelson, who've been doing our soils health, presented to myself and Scott the other day. And that was one of the things that came up was, are we looking at everybody putting in rain gardens and stuff, when instead we should be looking at a much easier and more effective, perhaps, solution. So, yeah, talked about how do we get, not just how do we incorporate it into our stewardship, how do we get people to know about it and to want to do it?
How to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so she had a lot of, again, practical, implementable things, as long as things that she'd like to see done. It's not, but they'd accomplished things and then they had more to go. But those were my favorite presentations.
Thank you.
I could talk a long time.
Well, let's just shift over to Tom.
Okay, so I'm going to go at it from a little different perspective. So this is the fourth year I've gone to this conference. And I think others have mentioned to me from time to time about there's a lot of scientific papers being presented, which is the case. These are researchers mostly from Minnesota, but from all over the country, and in some cases around the world. So I tend to focus on the presentations that are not specifically on some nuanced area of an important component, but kind of an overall point of view. And so anyway, that's my comments I'll make on some specific things here. So I don't know if is this what we have?
Everybody got this, plus they
Okay,
got your comment.
So,
okay, so on my,
for the audience's benefit, this is what is listed in the packet under manager reports. So,
I had hoped to do 6 slides here just to use as kind of talking points. So I'm kind of going back and forth between what I thought was going to be a slide and the summary notes that I've given you. So the key overall perspective from my point of view is that science is making the case unmistakable that Minnesota water resources function as a single continuous system where soil, groundwater, and surface water are all interdependent. And I think we've had many versions of that conversation over time here. And from my perspective, what I listened to and a number of different presentations was this is all connected, and we can't divide it up artificially. So one presenter, the luncheon speakers, I thought were really phenomenal, and they tended to paint a broader picture of what was going on. And one of the speakers, and I don't have her name here right in front of me, from Minnesota, said that in many Minnesota landscapes, up to 50% of the groundwater resurfaces as surface water within 10 to 20 years. And which the point being that it makes it it's relevant to our management, as opposed to thinking that once it goes in the ground, it's there for 10,000 years. So that was really eye-opening to me. And then the other component was managing them separately is administratively convenient, but scientifically obsolete. And so the next era of watershed management, us being us, will depend on agencies and local districts embracing integrated models, shared data, soil-based restoration as a foundation of resilient, climate-ready water policy. That's the overall theme that I took away from this thing. I mean, it just hit me during the presentations and afterwards. So I'll just mention a couple things on each individual point here. So again, the notion that up to 50% of the groundwater resurfaces as surface water in 10 to 20 years. And they had a graphic showing the cycle. And I know Jill and others have made presentations on this many times before. Wetlands are interface zones. And again, they're not to be treated as isolated components of this system. And urban and agricultural examples illustrate dual dependence. And again, from being at the Minnesota watershed conferences and things related to that, again, we get the idea that it's rural and metro. And simple matter of the fact is it's all connected and they can't be separated. So I think, again, there's hope and views that these might not be insurmountable problems and are being forced on us. So anyway, the takeaway on this is that policies that only address one side of the hydrologic cycle miss half the picture at least. And I know this has been a mantra of Manager Crafton since I've known her, and it continues to be.
It's in that thing that I gave you, water for the recovery of the climate.
So
It drives me nuts at Bowser because they treat surface water and groundwater as two separate things.
two separate things. So groundwater protection is surface water protection and vice versa. Again, those are notions I think that we have to be carrying through this. Second key point is on modeling and data integration. Again, from what I've seen at the various presentations is that everybody is doing their own form of data gathering, goes into some isolated database. Maybe there are some overlaps, but the fact that it's not connected, again, we're losing valuable insight in terms of how it relates to all the components of the infrastructure. Climate and climate extremes. Again, that highlights the point of why integration matters. You can't treat these things individually anymore. Soil health is a living link. There were a couple presentations on that. And again, Jill has presented that many times. This person's name is Dr. Anna Cates.
Jeez. She's not my favorite.
You don't like her?
She does reductionist research. She doesn't do applied research. And so she's looking at two variables instead of a system. Anyway.
Another point is chloride and water quality. Again, the whole notion is coming up more and more about how chloride is poisoning our water permanently. There's a 1 teaspoon and equates to 5 gallons of permanently disposed water. Again, there's a lot more action going away in that area. And so anyway, the practical takeaways is that to start framing it as one water rather than the separate components. And again, it probably goes against budgets, goes against silos, it goes against legislation. But we have to figure out how to put this stuff together because nature is not separating it the way we do. So incorporate soil health metrics, prioritize land and peatland restoration, calibrate with agricultural and urban partners, invest in coupled modeling capacity, and translate complex science across in plain language communication. Again, those are components I think that Liz and others are bringing up in our communication protocols, is that we have to figure out ways to bring it down to common sense terms. I actually went to one session where they had a group of about 20 people of all the different agencies down to individual landowners. They were talking about a data center being located just on the periphery of a metro area and talking about the issues and how one group can be talking about the data of one particular aspect and just totally missing it because nobody really understands what they're talking about. But anyway, they came up with ways to analyze messages that we give out in terms of dealing with this. So anyway, I thought it was particularly eye-opening this year, and it seems like it fits in with our new 10-year planning cycle, our strategic planning, and the presentations we had earlier today. It seems like it fits, and now is the time. So anyway, I didn't mean to talk that whole time, but
That was good
if there's
meeting.
any comments?
So I also went to the Water Resources Conference and I just wrote down a few tidbits, is what I call them. And that one of them is when Andrew Erickson was talking to underdrain or not to underdrain.
Yeah. That was good.
And I thought that was very interesting that they're doing a study, like, do we really need underdrains? And they have been removing them, or not removing them and plugging them in case they need to reopen them again. And they're finding that in most cases, no, you don't. And so, their question is, do we really need them as much as we think we need them? So I thought that was very interesting. And then I was listening to the special session on chlorides. And I know Eden Prairie especially, 22% of the fluoride found in surface waters comes from wastewater, and which is water softeners, usually in the home. And I know that you think, well, Eden Prairie has softened water, which does not use the chloride softening system, it uses lime. And so people don't need them, but in my experience, a lot of people have them because they think ours doesn't quite get it soft enough. So it still is a problem. And then of course we have the other cities in our district, which it could be a problem. And then the other one was 22%, 23% is fertilizers. So it's, that's basically 50-50 with de-icing. So, and then also, there are suggestions about salt management plans, like we should be looking at how can we require that developers look at not just the cost of the salt use itself, but also long-term damage, and kind of force them to look outside of the box and how to manage the development. What kind of could we have a set of basic guidelines that they have to follow for development and not just use of salt? For salt design, basically, to minimize the need for salt. And then the last one I thought that was a little interesting was on PFAS. I don't know if everybody knows what PFAS is. So it's a polychlorinated, can't remember all it stands for, but it's in everything. It's in firefighting foams. It's in non-stick pans. It's in all sorts of plastics. It's in lots and lots of stuff.
It's in us.
And it's showing up. It's another permanent. We can't get rid of it very easily. Contaminant. And what they're finding is that landfills, people that are doing compost with food waste, the anaerobic digestion that is being used for food waste to turn it into compost is actually ending up with a lot of PFAS in it. And it's getting very concentrated. And so then now they're taking that compost and putting it out on the streets. So that's kind of a question as to how can we get rid of PFAS? And they went through, and there are a couple methodologies that they're finding have better success, organic-based treatment systems rather than carbon coal-based systems. So there was some pretty interesting research coming out on that. But anyway, it was a very interesting conference, I thought. So learned a lot.
Good.
Thank you all for your comments.
I have one more set of comments.
Jim.
Just quickly on Minnesota Watersheds meeting, which I've taken the place of our previous manager, David Ziegler. So I've attended one meeting, actually two meetings, but one since our last meeting. And we approved the 2026 budget.
you.
Um,
Thank you.
Okay. And a number of other things.
No, I just meant, thank you for approving that budget. So in that budget is we are trying to put together a communication platform that can be used by all the managers, all the staff throughout the watershed, Association of Watersheds, so that we can communicate things better with one another. And that was part of the budget that was approved.
Total budget was about 475,000. Some bylaw changes that Lewis probably has been involved with. Minor updates. Is that a categorization of? We approved new contracts for MB Consulting, Matty Bone, and the LGN contract, which is the consulting, legislative consulting group. Approved that contract. The executive director, Jan Voigt's contract was approved, and we approved a Clean Water Council letter recommending Andy Henschel to be the replacement on the Clean Water Council. That recommendation went to the
Administrator
governor.
as opposed to a manager, which is really good.
Andy Henschel is a really good choice.
And then the upcoming Region 3 meetings at our December up north meetings, there's a election for a new 3-year term representing Region 3, which I was the interim, so it'll be an actual election for the next 3-year term after that. So anyway, that's all I have.
Thank
That's on the first day, right? That's on Tuesday is the
It's
region three.
on
In the
Wednesday.
morning.
September,
She just sent that out.
Yeah, it just.
December
came this
3rd.
week,
on December 3rd.
Yeah.
The first day of the.
First day. And you had an additional comment.
I did. We were finishing the water resources. I wanted to bring up for you guys to think about. I've talked about having a gathering time after the meeting that we can get together to either a social gathering or better would be to have a time to be able to talk about topics of general interest to the watershed with staff, public, and the managers. I've spoken to Lewis and Administrator Jeffries, and they both think it's a great idea that we can do this. And so it'd be after the meeting, if you wanted to go over to wherever you public notice it, like the brewery, that we could go over there and talk about anything of general, not agenda, but of general interest to the watershed. And what I'd like you to think about is how you might, if you want to do it, you don't have to participate, but if you did, would it be, I think it might be helpful to maybe have a workshop separate now and then that we would have a period of time after, instead of doing it after 2 long meetings. That maybe once a quarter or every now and then, just have it separate.
Or we could even stagger them,
Or stagger, but anyhow, of what that might look like, I'll bring a proposal, but just want you to think about that. I feel like we need a time to
Great
talk
idea.
about some of this stuff with each other. Or those who want to could do so. We could talk about, the articles you've brought up and what you want to say, so you feel heard and understood, and we can communicate better.
So Louis, you have no issue with us doing this?
There are 2 ways to think about it. If you're meeting and not discussing watershed business whatsoever, then that doesn't need to be noticed and open to the public.
Mhm.
But there's usually a temptation when you get watershed people together to talk about watershed matters. And so then if you're, whenever you do that, it just needs to be noticed and open to the public. And you need to give some sense of what the purpose that you're gathering, and it can be general discussion of watershed planning or something, general, so that the public knows. And probably be clear in that notice that you're not going to be transacting any, deciding any issues or taking any votes on anything. And that way it's still accessible to the public, and then there's notice.
Thank you for clarifying that.
To clarify, I've asked him to write some language up
Yeah.
for that if we were to go forward.
Right.
So that would be part of a discussion item, is that would be part of what we'd have to public notice. So
Well-
anyhow.
Bring it to us.
Yes, yes.
I mean, I know that's one thing I've heard consistently from the managers is that a free flow exchange of just conversation tends to be stinted and stifled, and it would just be a nice opportunity to talk.
Okay, anything else, managers?
Well, I didn't go to the conference, but I did meet with Jack Gisto for a little over an hour because we couldn't stop talking. And that was a fun meeting. We talked a little bit about, see, one of the things when you're doing soil health is you need animals on the land. And he said, there are actually cows or cattle that are only 700 pounds. They're not 100, 1,500. So you
Can't hear
might
you.
consider that.
I can't hear you very
Okay.
well.
So he was, this is a city staff person, Public Works, so I know him pretty well. He's been participating in steering committee meetings and he was part of our workshops for the EHAP stuff. But he was suggesting that we could introduce animals on the landscape so we've got some prairie areas in Bloomington. So there, he said you either mow them or you graze them or you fire them. So anyway, I thought that was kind of cute that he was proposing we might want to look at 700-pound cattle. We talked a little bit about easements. He was thinking that might be something we should be looking at. I was just asking him for ideas. I said, I'm not at the steering committee meetings, anything you can share. He did like the idea he talked about, and Scott's talked about it, Terry's talked about it, but incentives. So that because I talked to him about permits and when people come in and we're tired of having to compromise on things we consider our values. And he said, well, maybe one of the things you need to do is just take one of those lots and you set aside $200,000, maybe 3 sets of that. So pick a project that's pretty bad and then offer to pay out part of it, and they have to put
So
good
much.
soil stuff on it, soil health and good whatever. So
That's interesting.
anyway, I thought that was interesting. I mean, you wouldn't do it for everybody, but we might want us to think about setting aside 600,000. So we had 3 options. If it was something that would workable.
And I think we could take it even a step further, and that is identify those areas that are yet to be developed that are of high quality or other resource value that we
Yeah.
would definitely want to protect.
The other thing he mentioned was about the ice thing. He said the litigation thing doesn't seem to be going anywhere. And I wasn't real clear on how he was developing quite this, but he said might want to go at it from a snow and ice safety perspective. So I don't know if there's something there that we could, I couldn't quite figure out how to take that. But anyway, he was thinking,
Yeah, I actually have a meeting coming up with Jack, so I can ask him to expand on that or his thoughts
he
are.
did say there's a place on 3 Rivers where we could.
Oh, yes, he has brought that up to me, yeah, so.
It's brought up to me. So I think we ought to pursue that.
Yeah.
Have a conversation with them. And the other thing was kind of fun. He had a tribal name and he had a hard time remembering it and I don't know what it was, but he said it was that we're a state of waters. But he said it wasn't like water bodies. He was like all this mist. And he said it's like all this transpiration going on and it's just this mist all over the landscape. And I don't know, he must have been talking to somebody from a tribal group or something, but I thought that was really an interesting perspective on what this site might have looked like at some point in terms of a lot of vegetation, a lot of transpiration going on. So that was just kind of, okay. And he did suggest that we might look at what Mississippi WMO is doing in terms of partnering with people, developing more projects collaboratively on the landscape. So I know I've read, they do work with the Minneapolis Park Board and some of that, but anyway, it might be something he thought there might be some value in reaching out and just seeing what they're doing. So that's what all I got out of that.
Okay, so I believe that brings us to the end of committee and member reports. We are now on to the consent agenda. We have item 7B pulled to discuss. So that leaves us with permit 2025-056. And pay application number 9 to Sunrim Construction for Middle Riley Creek and also for the Pioneer Wetland Restoration. So I'm looking for a motion. Second.
I had a question about the A.
About A?
So essentially, we're just
I'm sorry, can you,
enlarging that storm pond to capture the bounce so that they can send their water downstream to the wetland downstream.
They have. Go ahead. I'm sorry, Scott.
They are enlarging the storm one, but they are also adding an infiltration basin to abstract water.
The last sentence in that permit talks about how it's being directed through the storm sewer down to, and there's a lack of protected wetland downstream that's off-site, but that's where the water's gonna go.
Correct. That's where it currently goes today. They're keeping the drainage the same. They're adding infiltration so that there's less water going to the well.
I just drives me nuts. Okay, go ahead. We'll vote.
Okay, I think we're ready to vote. Any other questions? I hear none. Okay, so all those in favor of approving the consent agenda, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, none. Next, we're on to new business. So the first item is what we've pulled, which is the adoption of resolution 25-058, which is what we discussed during the workshop period. And I believe that we maybe had some suggestions of how to modify this. Is that what I'm hearing? Yes.
I had a thought after we started eating.
Okay.
Terry, would you and Liz send a letter to our cities and tell them about this project?
sure?
I mean, I just think we need to do some outreach and invite them into something, but I mean, I can understand Lewis not wanting to have to be redundant in what she's doing. But it would be nice to reach out to them, I think, in a collaborative spirit of things.
I mean, they are at all our steering committee meetings. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, my thought was that rather than looking at the proposal as a whole right now, is to kind of separate out a portion of step 1 into a smaller contract to kind of reach out, gather the temperature not only of the cities, but also to look at what the adjoining watershed districts are doing for this type of work, to kind of, feel things out, see who would partner with us, get ideas for what we should or could be doing, something like that.
I think you also wanted to.
Yeah, my concern is it feels like a big push towards a DEI initiative that is not necessarily focused on our primary work as a watershed district in protecting water resources. So I want to make sure the work we do informs the project work. It could be a part of our education outreach, but I don't want to be the leader in DEI in the state. That's not a role I think we need to be pursuing at this time. So I appreciate starting smaller. The scope feels too large for what I'm comfortable with at this point in time.
Tom, you wanted to say something.
Well, I somewhat agree with that same point, not knowing where this goes. I guess from my perspective, I made the comment earlier, I think cities as well as the watershed are resource strained in terms of personnel to do things. So they all come up with ideas and the ideas don't go anywhere because they don't have staff or money to move it beyond the idea. So it gets talked about, it sounds great, but nothing happens because there's nobody there to lift the water, so to speak. So to me, it seems like even though it might not be defined the way we're talking about right now, it seems like we would have flexibility as this thing moves along to mold it. But the key thing is the start. And from my perspective, the dollar amount is not a showstopper in terms of how we build this bigger integrative notion about what we're doing. And given the context of, I guess, our watershed and specifically, I think we've identified over time, we're short-staffed in all kinds of areas and we're always pushing the limits or over the limits. So this feels like something that fits, and it doesn't fit quite perfect. But we have the resources to do this initiation, and if we can mold it as we go along to focus it on the cities and making sure that it's directly connected to what our goals are, then it seems like it's an approach that we have to pursue. Long-winded answer.
Okay, so how would all of you feel if we tried to modify the first portion of this? At which point we get a report back, and then we can decide what to do for steps 2 and 3.
I kind of like the idea of incorporating what Leslie said, and with a letter, send it out to the people within the county adjacent watershed districts and tell them about this initiative and give them a heads up.
What do you think will happen? Do you think we'll do this initiative and they'll get angry with? I don't understand. I don't know. I'm not following. Why?
Because
What would be the
they're
object?
already doing a lot of these things. And I just think it's,
But each city
That
is
hasn't
in
been
their
my
own
experience.
silo, and what we're looking at is how can we bring all this together to work within the goals of our watershed district? I mean, that's what watersheds do. They kind of gather up, or Bloomington does this, Eden does this, Minnetonka does that. How can we bring it all together and look at that as the water system as a whole?
I mean, I
well,
would,
then how about sending out a letter saying that this is what we're gonna do
But that's part of.
based on what she's saying, to
Yeah.
introduce it so it doesn't, so that you're introducing it to them.
yeah, I see, bullet points 4 and 5, 3, 4, and 5 actually fitting into that objective.
Right,
Focus grouping, survey administration, that's when we would be outreaching to
right.
all of our partners.
I just think it'd be important to do a heads up.
I do think if all of you find it acceptable, then perhaps what we could do is say, we'll approve phase 1, and then we'd like to have her come back and give us sort of what she's found and what she's thinking she's going to do in phase 2 and 3. How does that sound to everybody?
That sounds good.
I don't think we need a letter to go out to say this is what.
Okay, I think that's all part of, I think we can tell her that's sort of part of it. I think she's put a lot of time into how all this goes, and so I do want to be respectful of her time. So she does have, some dollar amounts for each section of it. So if we approve it as of section 1, and then she comes back to us, when is the date that the first phase is supposed to come back to us?
Phase 1.
March?
Through March 26.
March. So that will get us up to March. What does everybody think?
Yes.
Rose, are you okay with us sending out a letter to say this is coming?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to be disrespectful. She's lovely, and I think her scope is good. It's just,
I
I
think
think there
if,
should be something from us to say this is coming.
I think if all of us can agree that here's where our starting point is and what we expect from just this first section, then we can have her come back in March and see what she's got laid out for us for the following sections after that. Does everybody agree on that?
Does that work?
We send the letter out, yeah.
Okay, so now I need a motion.
I move to approve phase 1. What is it called? Of the building whole water systems through community
Understanding.
understanding.
Yeah, I think just to, and also add that we want to include that cities will be communicated with.
Give initial contact to the
Yeah,
cities.
Right.
Right, yes. The initial contact will, step 1 will be contact with the adjoining cities that are.
Need a second for that motion.
Second,
All right.
Can you tell me what regenerative practices are?
That would have been a great question to ask her.
I meant to.
But I think it is everything you've been discussing all evening about soil health and restoring the watershed.
I didn't think it was clear. I really had trouble with that language.
I think it's widely used language, but I'd be happy to send more.
Never heard that. I mean, I know what regenerative ag stuff is. They didn't know what regenerative practices are. Some of that language just, they were nice words, but I couldn't figure out the meaning.
Okay, if everybody's okay with the modification that we have here. So, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye. Opposed. Okay, so moving forward off of that. Next, adopt resolution 25-059, accepting the October treasurer's report and approving payment of the bills. May I have a motion, please?
I'll move the treasurer's report be accepted.
Second.
Okay, thank you. Any questions?
President Pedersen, managers. So I would like to request authorization from the board to expend up to $20,000 to acquire the Alta survey and the Phase 1 environmental site assessment that was already done for the Spring Road property from Pulte Homes, so that we can have it for the grant as is necessary for the closing documents. I spoke with Pulte Homes today. They were going to pull the cost together and let me know what it is, but they didn't have the cost for me in time to get it in. But in order to get this purchased by the end of the year, I'd like authorization from the board tonight to make an ACH expenditure up to $20,000.
We need a motion.
I think we do.
I'll move that we-
Don't we already have one though on the floor to
oh,
vote on?
sorry.
Yes, we still have to finish paying the bills. Oh, so let's do that.
Sorry, that's my fault, but I
It's
just
okay.
wanted to make sure I brought it up before we.
So all those in favor of accepting the October treasurer's report and approved payment of the bills, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, none. Next. Now we need a motion to approve the ACH up to $20,000 for the Spring Road property.
To acquire the existing Alta survey that they have performed for it and the Phase 1 environmental site assessment.
Somebody got that down?
I think that's down.
I'll second it.
Okay. Is that a motion? Are you motion? Okay. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye. Oppose none. So we got that.
Managers?
Okay. Okay, next, paid leave policy. Who would like to talk about that?
It's law, right? We have to do it?
I thought it looked reasonable based on, we have to do it.
I think in terms of what the state would require us to pay for the insurance versus what outside, because I've talked to a couple of people about buying outside. It's like a total shock to the system. So this is the most responsible thing we can do and still uphold the law.
So you want to do 100%.
Right.
Yeah,
The only difference is the amount of premium we choose to cover.
right.
That to me is our choice, not required by law.
Well, President Pedersen, managers, so we have gotten some quotes, or other districts have gotten quotes from private insurers, and it was 40 to 50% more to go that way. I budgeted for full expenditure for the district to pay 100% of the cost. It was $4,000 or so difference between the two. We can do it either way, but that's what the budget was set up, thinking that we'd pay for all of it.
I vote for the 100%.
Do we need to get a vote first?
Yes, we need to put this on.
I move that we adopt resolution 25060 establishing Watershed District, Minnesota paid leave policy at 100%.
Yes, thank you.
I second.
Okay. Now, any other questions or comments before we vote? Hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. None opposed. Okay,
Do I need to clarify 100% of the premium?
right.
Not 100%. What I'm not.
Yeah,
sure
yeah,
about.
100% of the premium. We're sorry.
That's self-insuring.
Okay,
No, I know, it's, well,
last item is asking if CAC members would like to attend the annual conference. And I believe
Sure.
we have money, right?
We have about
How many?
4,000, 5,000.
Yeah, let me pull up. the
Usually
budget. I
it's
believe
we
we have
ask,
5,000. I
and
think
then
you're right.
it's-
It's what we have in there. So we have up to.
Not a lot of people
4,500
say
something.
they can do that.
I mean, I thought we usually approved like 2 people can come, 3 people, we usually have a
There's only like it sounds to me like 7 to 8 people on the CAC at this point, so it's not like we have a group of 15.
Well, we probably
Right.
can't afford all of them to
Right,
come.
I-
So
Right.
we're looking at,
We've done up to 3, but what,
yeah, 3 is what we have done historically. Um,
Okay,
Let me just
so
look.
should we say a maximum of 3?
Yes.
Okay, so now I need a motion.
I move that we,
question.
President Patterson,
Yes,
managers,
Yes.
you might amend it to say up to the limits of what's existing in the CAC budget.
Oh.
And then if it's 4 or 5, it's 4 or 5.
all right, I'm going to move that we use the rest of the budget to pay for CAC members that are interested up to that limit of that amount to go to the annual meeting in Nisswa.
On a first come, first serve
Yeah,
basis.
okay.
Okay. Would they usually discuss it at a meeting?
I
or
think they
something?
do. Usually a lot of people say, I just can't do, I mean, it sort of normally happens.
It's a long way.
Yeah. I
Yep.
need a second.
I'll second.
Thank you. Okay, now, any other comments?
Discussion, I was gonna say, could we ask Jeff if he has a idea on what
Jeff,
would
you
be
want to go?
a good way to decide if who might go to the CAC meetings? Is that something the CAC should discuss amongst themselves? Or first come, first serve?
Sign up
You
tonight.
got first dibs,
I
Jeff.
think it wouldn't really be fair, but I think what I remember we'd done a year or 2 ago was considering who had been able to go previously. So if someone hadn't been able to go previously, they would get first dibs.
Mhm.
So for instance, I think I went 2 or 3 years ago, so that might put me at a second tier of being able to go. So that also assumes people can do the time off work or things like that too. But anyway, first dibs people who have not done.
So sounds like maybe a discussion at the CAC meeting would, that they can decide who to put forward.
Right. Yeah, and so maybe we need to give a little bit of heads up ahead of time, so that way we
Yeah.
can make a decision, because the next CAC meeting is on 17th, and then the conference is a couple weeks later.
2 weeks later.
Mhm.
So Liz could
I'll-
send something out.
Yeah, we'll send an email out to the CAC members tomorrow saying that this is going to happen. I'll probably at that point just ask for volunteers, and then if it's over, then we'll figure out how to fairly address that. We'll look at who's been there before or not, or whatever case may be. But yeah, in order to, because we're already running out of rooms.
So Administrator Jeffries will decide.
Yes, that
How's
would be
that?
just fine. Okay, was that okay that we amend your motion? Okay,
I just want some people to have access to that.
and you're okay with this?
Yes.
Okay,
Yep, that
great.
sounds workable.
Okay. So all those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye. Not opposed. Okay, I think we got it.
Money under expenses, right?
Well, there's the CAC fund. I mean, if the board wants to authorize taking it out of another fund, we can certainly do that. But historically in the past, we haven't had to turn people away.
Yeah.
Even
it's
when we
just
had it
worked
at just
out.
3, there was usually only about 3
think
people.
I think that amount is TAC and CAC, but we're not doing anything else with the TAC, so.
Right.
Okay, we are on to discussion items, which is 7A, board communications.
Manager
And
Nelson,
this is-
Manager Nelson already beat me to it. That was,
Oh,
that's
I
what that
didn't
was.
see it
for.
on there.
Okay, so
Sorry.
we'll wait for you to bring this back to us,
Okay,
Manager
yeah,
Nelson.
Good, you
No, that's what that
got us
was.
ahead of the curve.
Okay, and the items about the lawsuits, do we have any updates we need to discuss?
Madam President, we'd recommend going into closed session for the purpose of receiving confidential legal advice on litigation strategy on 2 lawsuits. The first, Larry Cook versus the Watershed District and Mr. Jeffrey, that concerns the Spring Road project. And the second, Mr. Cook versus Hennepin County, Carver County. the district and others, and that is regarding manager appointments. So we recommend that the board adopt a motion to go into closed session for those reasons.
I'll move we go into closed session. for
Thank
those
you.
reasons.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor of going into closed session, please say aye.
Aye.
None opposed. And where would you like us to be?
I think it's
In
easier for
together.
us to move. If you could mute your
Our discussion items, you can see we have upcoming board topics, Spring Road financing and the finalization of our 26 budget and levy. Plus, we are looking forward to the Minnesota Watersheds Annual Conference right at the beginning of December. I will entertain a motion to adjourn our meeting. All those in favor of adjourning, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you all very much.